Right, good afternoon, everyone. So, yes, it's me again. So, the Green Party, as you may have already known, they've got four new Green MPs in Parliament. They've had a really good showing in the election as well. Second place in about 45 constituencies, give or take. And now here's an article by Novara Media about what we should do next. It's by Adam Ramsey, not Adrian Ramsey. This is someone else, I think, yeah. So as you can see here are the new MPs. So we've got Sean Berry, MP for Brighton Pavilion, previously Caroline Lucas' seat. Next, Carla Denyer, co-leader of the Green Party, member for Bristol Central. She's good. I've seen her at Vedfest a while ago. Adrian Ramsey, another co-leader, MP for Waveney Valley. And Ellie Chowns, MP for North Herefordshire. I don't really know much about her. We're going to see a lot more of her in Parliament anyway. So, I spent the night of Thursday, 6th of May 2010, in Norwich Town Hall, exhausted and dispirited. I've spent most of my spare time over the previous months travelling there on always delayed late night trains from Oxford to knock on doors and deliver leaflets in the hopes of getting the Green Party's then young, then deputy leader elected. I'm not can't remember who that was with. Local election results had suggested it was possible. In the final fortnight, which I spent full time in the constituency, the prospects looked good that Greens could win both of their targets that year, Norwich South and Brighton Pavilion. The streets were lined by a forest of placards in front yards, and canvassing data was full of people declaring their intention to back Adrian Ramsey. No relation. Right, yeah. But over the course of election day, and then the count, it became clear that many of them hadn't. A last-minute leaflet from the Lib Dems had persuaded thousands that Nick Clegg's party was better placed to unseat the deeply unpopular incumbent Labour's Charles Clarke, who I think was Home Secretary at the time. Ultimately, Ramsey came a disappointing fourth with 15%. Fewer people had voted for him than had put placards supporting him. Many later sheepishly confessing that they had switched to voting tactically at the last minute. The fog of Cleggmania most soon came to regret. Yep, tuition fees. Now it's Davy Mania, who I thought this season who's now probably a lot better in some ways. Hopefully we won't make the same mistake again. Anyway, that night, a handful of young volunteers stayed to watch Caroline Lucas take Brighton Pavilion and the horror of David Cameron's sort of victory. Mm. But the failure to win the second seat hurt like hell. It would have hurt even more if we'd known it would have been another 14 years and four general elections before the Greens got that second MP. Last week, the Greens didn't just get a second MP, but a third and a fourth. That one of them is the same Adrian Ramsey makes the result particularly thrilling. And the fact that the young, much loved and loved yeah, that the young and much loved organiser of the impressive but ultimately successful 2010 Norwich South campaign, Chris Williams, came back to be the national coordinator behind the 2024 surge to make it all the sweeter. Yeah, and apparently the BBC, they didn't report any of it. Shocking. Yeah, but it's always reform, reform, reform. Anyway, yet it's worth pausing for a minute to ask the question, why did it take so long? There are essentially three reasons the Green Party in England and Wales was swimming upstream from 2010 to 2024. First, the Tories had been in power. Many left-leaning voters are more likely to be back Greens when they are disaffected with a Labour government. Yep. In 2010, I wasn't even entitled to vote, so I was living in care at the time. I didn't really know much about politics. I thought probably Cameron would be better than Brown. Didn't know anything about the Tory party. Anyway, first, the Tories have been in power. Many left-leaning voters are more likely to back Greens when they are disaffected with the Labour government. Yet, we already said that. Indeed, after Lucas was elected in 2010, it was common for pundits to opine that Brighton Pavilion would go back to Labour now that a Labour was running for opposition. But it didn't happen, though, did it? It's still Green. While that didn't happen, the failure to expand from there clearly had an impact. Yeah, this won't apply in the next election. Nope. And they do well in the locals, apparently. We did well in the MEPs as well. Second, voters went into each of the 2015, 2017, and 2019 elections unsure who was going to win the top job. And in 2015 was our first election. It's a bit of a later age, that is. And I voted Green at the time. 2017, 2019, I voted Labour because of Corbyn. But now back to the Greens. Progressives of all flavours were squeezed into voting Labour. Yeah. In 2024, everyone knew Labour were going to win, meaning people felt free to vote for who they wanted. In previous elections, the Green vote dipped in the polls in the last week. This time, it went up. Good. Third, in 2017 and 2019, Jeremy Corbyn was Labour's leader. Yeah. And the left was largely enthusiastic about him, very much so. It's a shame he didn't get Prime Minister. If only. While the first and third of these clearly won't apply next time, the second could go either way. And any Green strategy will have to be flexible enough to get the most possible seats given that emerging situation. That said, I don't want to have to wait another decade and a half to see Green MP numbers quadruple again. Hope don't go down either. And so here are some initial thoughts on how the party can grow rapidly into the next election. PR, that'll be a good one. Find the next two targets. There are two primary ways to look at the party's strategy: how many and which seats to target next, and how to grow national support measured both by vote share and membership activist space. And apparently, I think Huddersfield was the closest second place in the 2024 election. Can't remember by how many votes, but yeah. To think about the format, it's worth looking at an obvious conundrum. Demographically, the people must be open to voting Green, tend to cluster in large urban areas. There are, by my count, 17 adjoining constituencies in inner East London and also clusters in central Manchester, Leeds and Sheffield, where Greens came second, despite very little campaigning. Nice. And yet, none of these Greens 4 MPs are in any of the UK's largest cities. Well, Brighton and Bristol are quite large, aren't they? Instead, 2 are in rural areas with demographically similar nearest neighbours where the Greens did poorly. In every seat around Ravenny Valley and Hereford North, the party came 4th, 5th, or in one case, 6th. Yeah. And in the other 2 are in medium-sized English cities. Okay. Though Bristol is the centre of a much larger conurbation on Brighton, whatever that means. To understand why, we need to look at not at demographics, but logistics. The Greens have a specific model for winning a constituency. First, build a ladder from local council wards, okay? Heavily targeting 1, then 2, 4, etc. across the constituency. And where Greens hold most councillors over a constituency, funnel national resources in, pushing the candidate to the top of the ladder. Okay. We probably need to do a bit more than that. Across every seat the Greens won, they had already built up large numbers of councillors, and in doing so demonstrated to voters the party support in the area, built databases of where Green voters live, so they could be turned out on polling day. and gathered crucial skills and local knowledge. The problem is that this model has proved extremely hard to follow in London, in particular, and also in Birmingham and Manchester, where there are just 2 and 4 green councillors respectively. Yeah. Be a bit more difficult if you've got less councillors. People not knowing who you are and that. Across London, and to some extent all of these cities, London has a huge and highly mobile membership, most of whom live in safe Labour ward and constituencies. When Greens target a ward, Labour can persuade an enormous number of activists from across the city to hop on the tube and show up in vast numbers to see off a threat. Greens do have councillors in 9 different London boroughs, but in most cases it's just small groups of 2 or 3, often representing the same ward. Each of these victories was hard won. This is compounded by the fact that urban wards tend to be much better than rural wards. In Herefordshire County Council, the average ward has 3,600 people, meaning candidates get elected on a few hundred votes. One active and charismatic member working cleverly can get themselves elected and build a base in there. In Islington, yeah, that's where Jeremy Corbyn is, it's about 13,000 to a ward. In Birmingham, 30,000, meaning each ward there is about a quarter of constituency. Winning a rural MP, means climbing just as high up a ladder, but the rungs are significantly closer together. I suspect there is also some deeper sociology going on. Lots of people in a big city like London will, for example, live in one ward or even borough working in another, and socialise in others still. For a small party to win in the first past the post, you need to create a strong sense that you can win in one specific place. Yeah, it would be really difficult in first past the post places, especially cities and whatnot. In rural areas or smaller cities where people are more likely to live, work, and hang out within one electoral boundary, that's much easier than it is where people are regularly hopping on the tube, Bristol, Manchester's tram, and crossing 3 different constituencies. The flip side of this, however, is that constituencies in larger urban areas have much bigger spillover effects. That is, where Greens win a constituency or ward within a larger city, Greens tend to do better to the neighbouring ward or constituency, even without a campaign. Yeah. Brighton was never really big enough for this effect to take hold. Constituencies either side of the pavilion rapidly stretched into wealthy areas, much less demographically aligned to Greens. Okay. Bristol is a bit bigger. Yeah, I think it's like the 4th biggest city, Bristol. Maybe not. Here, the strong Green campaign in Central helped secure enough votes that demographically similar East and South constituencies are now both within reach of Green victory next time. Yeah, good. Make it so. And North East and North West, perhaps a time after that, and make it like Isle of Wight as well, West and East. People Sheffield something. The other Green second places. It's 40 ones who came second. But because Bristol is relatively small, you rapidly reach suburban constituencies around that potentially Green core, which are more or less likely to vote for the party. The big prize is Central East London, or London as a whole. Here, there are the 17 places the Greens came second. Another 6 were left-leaning independents did. Islington North, whenever its incumbent chooses to retire, yet. And for the Greens, the tantalising question of whether Faisal Shaheen can be recruited to run under the party's banner in Chingford and Wood Green. You know what could make a big difference? If Jeremy Corbyn joined the Green Party. I don't think it would ever happen, but yeah, that would be good if that did happen. Instead of making his own party or not, or joining Galloway's Workers' Party, join the Greens. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Among these, there is the obvious question of how to ensure a brilliant green woman of colour succeeds Diane Abbott when she chooses to stand down. I'm not suggesting that all of these seats can be won next time. I am. Well, most of them at least. I am suggesting that it is time for the party to start thinking seriously about how, over the next decade, it can turn East London and other major urban expanses green. Yeah, bring it on. Greens have developed a model for winning MPs in rural areas and in medium-sized cities. Now they need to do the same in big cities. Yeah, in the west, north, south, east constituencies. Or to put it another way, it's time for the Greens to march deep into the territory Keir Starmer has taken for granted. It's still one of the biggest prizes in British politics. Holborn and St Pancras. Yeah. Have no fear. If Greens have struggled in major city centre seats because it means going toe-to-toe with Labour, speaking in Holborn and St Pancras, 2015, when Natalie Bennett was leader, she stood in Holborn and St Pancras. It's a shame she didn't win. If Greens had struggled in major city centre seats because it means going toe-to-toe with Labour on its home turf, then this election taught the party its own strength. Labour poured enormous resources into Bristol Central, and he can pour enormous resources into everywhere else. Do it. Here in Plymouth as well, and Cornwall. Every performative lickspittle hoping for a peerage from Starmer went to canvass for Fangam Debonair, of course, as a way to demonstrate the repudiation of any former left-wing ties and their absolute loyalty to the leader. And what's even shocking is that Dale Vince of Ecotricity, Forest Green Rovers and what have you, campaigned for Labour in Bristol Central. Shocking. Vast numbers of canvassers were set to block Sian Berry and Carla Denyer from winning their seats, but they didn't today. Because Labour was terrified that Greens winning in both Brighton and Bristol would give voters across urban England the idea that something better is possible. Oh, it is possible. And Starmer's thimble of cold, weak tea. It didn't work, obviously. Once voters concluded that we could get a Green MP, they were clear that that is indeed what we wanted, and it's what we got. Resource mobilisation matters enormously in elections, but voters do ultimately have agency, and most people in Britain are to the left of the current government. Anyway, So, the real threat is not reform, it's the Green Party. And that's a good thing. Bring it on. Organised in Muslim communities. To win over major urban areas will require some rapid demographic expansion of the Green coalition. Then again, the reform did come second in more constituencies, which is shocking. So the Green Party didn't. It's getting there. Since the end of the Cold War and collapse of the Communist Party, two clear electoral traditions have emerged within left of Labour politics in England. As the UK went into the 2010 election, these two strands were led on the hand by Caroline Lucas, standing in Brighton Pavilion, and Salma Yaqub, then the Respect leader, winning in Birmingham Hall Green. Oh, okay. Salma, say something. I knew George Galloway was in Respect, but didn't know about anyone else. Thought he was like the only person in it. Ultimately, while Lucas won by 2%, Yaqub came second by 8%. I sometimes wonder where he would be if these relatively narrow margins were reversed. George Galloway might have won by-elections at the back of the same demographic as Yaqub. Excuse me. But while Galloway is, in my opinion, a political parasite, he's good in Gaza, but some other things, not so much. There's a lot of things, actually. Yaqub would have been capable of a building the movement. Yeah, I'm not really sure about them. Sami, I could not have heard of him, I think. Shortly after the 2015 election, the Green Party's two main committees held a joint strategy day. They asked me to dig through the national results and present thoughts on the way forward. The party had won its biggest national vote share ever, by far, but failed to get a second MP. At the time, I argued there were three main demographics open to switching to the party: millennial renters, Muslim communities, and rural progressives. Ultimately, I suggested Greens should be focusing on the uniting the former two. Almost everything I said became irrelevant a couple of months later. Corbyn was elected Labour leader, winning those first two demographics back to his party. Including me. Anyway, the next year, the Brexit referendum upended British politics again. That was absolutely shameful. People know what I think about Brexit, how I reacted immediately after that result. Disgraceful. Nearly a decade later, though, the basic point is now truer than it was then. Now with the millennials approaching middle age, Gen Z can be added to the former group. 2 of the 4 new Green MPs were elected, largely by the same category of voter. The other 2 were elected mostly by those from the third group. Meanwhile, 4 independent MPs were elected mostly by the middle group. In the weeks before the election, polls did show a significant shift from Labour to the Greens among British, Asian and Muslim communities. But the party didn't have a capacity to organise this last-minute surge of support into any kind of electoral victory. Now, it has 5 years to do so. Yeah. 5 years to beat Reform as well, because they're a big threat as well. If the Tory party doesn't completely collapse. Explore routes other than local government. For me. Oh, brilliant. All of this will probably require some re-evaluation of how targeted. Brilliant. All of this will probably require some re-evaluation of how target constituencies have chosen. Look at the recent Westminster results and you see that a staircase of councillors isn't necessarily the only way to win an MP. Set aside Corbyn. And there are 4 MPs elected who are what you might call pro-Gaza independents. Yeah. In a number of other seats in the big cities, similar candidates came reasonably close second. Yeah. Like Ilford North, Birmingham Yardley, a few others maybe. What this implies is that there's a huge electorate in the centre of England's major cities willing to break out of a two-party system and vote for broadly anti-establishment candidates who are, at least on the main issue on which they are very focused, to the left of Labour. The Greens, the main national party on that part of the spectrum, has chosen the strategic regions not to target these seats. Independent candidates stepped into the vacuum. I'm not suggesting that this was a mistake. Breaking through from 1 to 4 MPs required intense strategic focus, and that worked. I do think it posed an obvious opportunity next time. However, alongside the seats where the Greens came second, how many of those in which left-leaning pro-Gaza independents came in strong positions in 2024 could the Greens win next time? Maybe not in particular seats, but other seats maybe. Whoever came second, the Greens. What it is also implied is that voters were more willing than ever before to back last-minute campaigns, which can be done for the Greens as well, to forget former loyalties and to make up their mind in the polling booth. They were swayed by an issue which emerged over the last 9 months. Rather than by 5 years of door knocking, yeah, hopefully in 5 years' time, will the Gaza thing still be an issue? Hopefully not. Hopefully Palestine will be close to being free at that time. And the Russia thing as well. This creates greater chances for the light-footed opportunists and fast-moving strategic interventions than ever before. Of course, the risk of any kind of last-minute flexibility is that it eats away at discipline. Greens have succeeded through intense focusing of national resources into one place of many years. How you take advantage of political pain moments and opportunities without just returning to a free-for-all that meant the party failed to win a second seat in 2015, or any seats before 2010, is a difficult question. But it's one Green strategics to think about. Build a national profile, yeah. Delivering a bold electoral strategy will require the Green Party to have many more resources than it currently does. More money, more staff, and more activists across the country, yeah. More and more, yeah. Party and more media coverage, that would be a big bonus as well. Partly that's down to everyone who wants the party to succeed actually joining it and working to build it. But partly it will come down to what the current organisation does. Caroline Lucas gets arrested at a fracking protest in 2013. I thought that was something else for a second. For example, enormously boosted her profile and the party support. The Green parties in the UK were founded on 4 pillars: social justice, ecological wisdom, radical democracy, and peace. There is immense anger in the country about each of these areas: poverty, inequality, and the clear failures of British capitalism and austerity. The climate and nature emergencies, the sewage in our rivers, and the pollution in our air. The sewage in the rivers, that's Zimbabwe, southwest water and what have you. It's painful. The deep sense our whole democratic system is broken and needs a radical overhaul. And the genocide in Gaza. Yeah. With 4 MPs, soon to be more, it seems to be that these would make a powerful set of briefs, and each should aim to establish themselves within the next year as prominent spokespeople for the correlating social movements. Yeah. Of course, that would involve being engaged in the hard work of Parliament, as it should, of course. But it also means working closely, as Caroline Lucas always did, with those outside. 4 votes in the lobbies only changes politics so much. 4 MPs raising their voices can make much more difference. I've been a Green member for 23 years now. Nice. I've been a Green member for just a few weeks. And about a few months or so, around 2015, before the Corbyn era. And the most consistent mistake the party has made in that time is being afraid of controversy, ducking Daily Mail attacks rather than provoking them, facing them down and showing voters which side you're on. Yeah, that's what Corbyn should have done. When he lead everybody, he should have called them all out instead of just pandering at all. And the PLP. After all, the opposite of being controversial is being ignored, and we've had enough of that. Yeah, we have. 4 MPs are just the start. Even in this term, Starmer's persecution of the left and the Green success across the country surely leaves enormous potential for a few defections from Labour, and the party should be actively seeking them and working out how it will manage that process. Similarly, every party that has successfully broken through in recent decades has used by-elections to do so. It is surely time for a Green by-election squad. Yep, probably seeing quite a few of them in the near future. Get Green MPs elected in all of them, or most of them. Even without them, there is a chance for the party to use the electoral cycle to build momentum. Before the next Westminster elections, there are Welsh Senate elections with a new voting system that is more likely to finally secure Green seats. Okay? There are also metro mayorships, and if they aren't scrapped, police and crime commissioners up for grabs. Could Jamie Driscoll be persuaded to run as a Green and help to win in the North East? Hopefully. Along the slow, methodical work of building up local bases of support, and which the party has become so good, the Green parties in these islands are now beginning to bring some panache, what that means, to proceedings, to shock pundits and create momentum among a population that is increasingly fed up with the 2 main parties. Beyond its electoral strategies, the party needs an ambitious plan to grow in membership, using the best techniques of a digital age. The post-election surge looks like it will take the party past 60,000 members. Nice. Is 100,000 by the end of 2024 possible? It's possible before the end. Most definitely. It's coming. Let's find out. Yep. Green Party members have put in extraordinary effort to build the party a straight state. It's time for the show to begin. Yep. That's how it is. Green power, here we come. We're going to become a bit more powerful, get more MPs and through by-elections and whatnot, more members. I'm going to get a voice this time, and hopefully get more green coverage or green media coverage, like Question Time and Sunday Politics and what have you. Bring it on and hoping get rid of this reform as well. Anyway, see you soon.